The Elite Four are the final stretch of battles before any trainer can become a Pokemon champion. And so naturally, they're extremely powerful trainers. Most of the time. So good morning everybody, good morning, it's JPR. That's a lie actually, it is 11:48 p.m. right now. Why did I wait so long to record this? Just like the gym leaders before, we'll be breaking down who the worst Elite Four members are in every region. And like before, we're only ranking their initial battles, so no rematches included. Let's get into it. So Kanto is a bit strange because in most games I would say that the first Elite Four member, Lorelei, is actually the toughest. I know, surprising given that she specializes in ice types who are like notoriously bad, which is why I feel the need to disclose this information. But honestly, it just helps that almost her entire team is part water type, so she doesn't get washed by fire. And even if you bring something like Zapdos, well, Jinx is there to act as a solid counter. Agatha's team is admittedly not great, but the sheer fact that she has 2 Gengars is enough to make her pretty challenging in most games. And Lance actually gets a considerable move pool upgrade in Let's Go, as they finally give us Aerodactyl Rock Slide and his Dragonite Fire Punch to deal with ice types. And so the worst Kanto Elite Four member is... I don't know why I'm dragging this out so much. Could it ever be anybody except the guy with 2 Onyxes? I mean, even if I'm to ignore this absolutely massive blunder, it doesn't help Bruno that fighting is just an incredibly lackluster type in the first 3 generations. So in every Gen 1 game and in Fire Red and Leaf Green, he's pretty much a pushover. The only Pokemon in his entire team that poses any kind of threat is his Hitmonlee with High Jump Kick, which didn't even become that good of a move till Gen 5, so even that isn't as scary as it sounds. He also never carries a Dark-type move in any of the Kanto-based games, so Psychic types are an incredibly free win against this guy. I'll give him credit for at least bringing Thunder Punch on Hitmonchan and Rock Slide on Machamp in some games to deal with flying, but bro still has a lot of work to do. But I will say, while Bruno still doesn't have an answer for Psychic in the Johto-based games, his team is considerably buffed up in many ways, especially in Heart Gold and Soul Silver when it comes to moves and abilities. So he's definitely not our worst pick for the Johto Elite Four. Even though it's technically still the Kanto Elite Four just 3 years later, but you know what I mean. Karen is definitely not the best. I mean, both of these Gengar movesets made my eyeballs throw up when I looked at them, like what is she doing in the kitchen? Somebody please get her out. But in both games, I think her Houndoom is good enough as an ace to carry her, and at least 3 of her Pokemon types counter Bug and Fighting. And Fairy didn't exist yet, so she does dodge a weakness there. Will, likewise, is not very impressive, but honestly, he doesn't come close to Koga, who runs like 1 good attacking move on all of his Pokemon. Like for real, looking at Koga's team in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, it looks like they just forgot to add any new moves to his Pokemon aside from Gunk Shot on Muck and Poison Fang on Crobat. His team just has a ton of weaknesses, notably to Psychic and Fire, so Pokemon like Typhlosion just run straight through this guy. His fight focuses more on statuses and setting up for the long haul, which makes the battle more annoying than difficult, I would say. Like, okay bro, you used Minimize with Muck 3 times and now you've wasted the last 5 minutes of my life. Do you feel like an Elite Four member now? Anyway, maybe this guy should get demoted back to Gym Leader. Hoenn is a pretty easy one, it's definitely Sydney. This guy's teams and movesets are all terrible. His condition also isn't helped by the fact that Dark is just not a great attacking type in general, and it was especially bad back in Gen 3 when all Dark moves were special, which is a pretty big mismatch for his entire team. He has virtually no coverage on every Pokemon except Absol, who runs Aerial Ace, Rock Slide, and Psycho Cut depending on the game to deal with Bug and Fighting types, but the addition of Fairies and Oras also doesn't help his case. Yes, they give his Sharpedo Poison Fang to deal with them, but come on guys, this is Poison Fang, a base 50 power move we're talking about, let's not get too impressed. Beyond the bad coverage though, his team is just so slow and so frail. It's probably the worst combination in all of Pokemon, and that applies to all 5 of his Pokemon. 6 if you count Crawdon from Emerald. If you have Blaziken, he's cooked. If you have Ninjask with X-Scissor, he's cooked. If you have Heracross, he's double cooked. He just doesn't have a way to fight back. Like, sure, Glacia's not great either, but at least she has some kind of Hail, Blizzard, Snowcloak team synergy going for her in the remakes. Sydney's Pokemon don't really mesh together or cover for each other at all. Pretty much all of them are fighting for their lives as soon as they get sent out on the battlefield. Now, Sinnoh is a pretty tough one because, well, this Elite Four is actually pretty tough, but beyond that, the teams for this Elite Four are radically different in every game they appear in. Like, right off the bat, you look at Aaron and go, okay, Bug Guy, how tough can he be? And then you see his team and it's like, oh my goodness! Especially in Platinum, they did not mess around with this guy. Now, in Diamond and Pearl and the remakes, he does have Beautifly and Dustox on his squad, which aren't nearly as impressive as Scizor and Yanmega, but he is aided by those games' absolutely horrid Pokedex that only includes 2 Fire-type Pokemon. Now, yeah, if you chose Infernape, you're probably still waxing this guy despite his best efforts, but if you didn't, he actually puts up a pretty good fight in every game. On that note, sure, we can clown Flint and Diamond and Pearl and the remakes for only using those 2 fire types. But in all reality, that just makes him a bigger challenge, since it's harder to wipe his team with a single type. Plus, Infernape and Rapidash both stay strapped with Thunder Punch and Solar Beam. And in BDSP, he has a freaking minimizing, baton-passing Drifblim into his Focus-Sashed Infernape. It's actually one of the craziest fights in any main story maybe ever. So Sinnoh's worst Elite Four member, I would say, is Bertha, because while her team and coverage are pretty good, at the end of the day, she just has way too many slow Pokemon with double weaknesses for the player to exploit. Quagsire, Whiscash, Golem, Gliscor, and Rhyperior. Like, yeah, her team is more than well equipped to deal with people who chose Empoleon or Torterra. So when we were stupid kids who only used our starter Pokemon and like a B-Barrel for HM moves, then yeah, Bertha might have been difficult. But if you have a well-trained Roserade or Floatzel, or honestly any Pokemon that learns Energy Ball, then you should defeat her relatively easily. Also, regardless of whether her ace is Hippowdon or Rhyperior, this just goes back to my point on slow ace Pokemon that I made in the Gym Leaders video. Eventually, you will lose the war of attrition to the player. They don't have the same value in single-player mode that they do online. And hey, speaking of online, this YouTube channel is almost at 250,000 subscribers, so if you've been enjoying these videos, I would really appreciate if you subscribed and liked the video. Thank you so much! Moving on to Unova, this may just be the most evenly matched Elite Four yet, in both Black and White 1, as well as Black 2 and White 2. They're about the same. Except Chantal, she's like the only one who replaces one of her Pokemon as she gets rid of Jellicent for Drifblim for some reason. Maybe because this fight is too close to Marlin, who also has a Jellicent, that's my best guess. Where the differences between them can truly be seen is in Black 2 and White 2's Challenge Mode feature, where they get an extra Pokemon and held items. Chantal's extra Pokemon is Bayonet, not a fantastic addition, but it does carry Will-O-Wisp. Golurk notably gets Expert Belt for some extra damage, and most frighteningly, Chandelure gets a Choice Scarf, which is just pure madness. Grimsley's extra Pokemon is Absol, who carries Psycho Cut to deal with fighting types. Crocodile also gets an Expert Belt to take advantage of its wide move pool, and Bisharp gets a Citrus Berry replaced with a Quick Claw. FYI, all the Pokemon have items on these teams. I'm only highlighting the biggest changes, so don't think I forgot or overlooked anything. Caitlyn gets a freaking Life Orb Metagross added to her team with Hammer Arm to deal damage to Dark types. And Marshall, who was honestly already the best of this Elite Four in my opinion with his elite coverage, gets a Lucario who knows Shadow Ball to deal with Psychic types. His other 4 Pokemon all carry Dark, Bug, or Rock moves to deal with Psychic and Flying types, so I can say beyond the shadow of a doubt, it's not him. With that being said, I think it comes down between Chantal and Grimsley, and ultimately, I'm going with Grimsley. Mostly because outside of this Absol, he definitely has the least amount of moves that deal with types that he's weak to. Bug and fighting types are extremely powerful in Unova, and to be honest, I don't like how his ace Bisharp has to rely on the RNG-dependent Quick Claw. And even if Quick Claw does activate, his Aerial Ace is unlikely to KO a Conkeldurr, Emboar, or any other bulky fighting type. Meanwhile, your fighting move is certainly taking him out because, well, he's a Bisharp. But of all the worst Elite Four members so far, Grimsley is actually pretty good. Okay, yay, Kalos. If there's one thing this region is good for, it's simplifying my job, because for once we only have one set of battles to look at. But honestly, it's a pretty tight race between Malva and Drasna, because both of their teams are pretty not good. Drasna only has one Pokemon to deal with Fairy types, that being her Dragalge, but since it's her lead, once you KO it, it's smooth sailing from there. Also, aside from Noivern, she definitely chose like 3 of the worst Dragon-type Pokemon possible for her team. Like, it's kinda impressive that they made a Dragon-type trainer this easy. I'll give her credit where credit is due for running Flamethrower on Noivern to deal with Ice types though. As for Malva, she does carry Wild Charge and a Pyroar to deal with water types, but Pyroar is by no means a physical attacker, so this is certainly not the best solution to deal with your problems. She does have a Chandelure, but its moveset is relatively lackluster, especially compared to Chantal, who just ran 4 attacking moves with great coverage. Torkoal pre-Drought is just a terrible Pokemon, and Talonflame is pretty weak for an ace. And with these 4 moves, it gets pretty walled out by Water and Rock-type Pokemon. Overall, I think I'm going to say that Malva is worse than Drasna though, simply because Fire is an inherently easier type to deal with for most players. Like, I think you're way more likely to have Greninja or a good Water or Rock type on your team than you are to have a good Fairy or Ice type. Plus, Drasna's Pokemon at least have a little variety in their movesets, whereas Malva's movesets are honestly really bad, which leaves her with a lot of Pokemon that she can't do much damage against. Alola might be the strangest region to cover because their Elite Four actually consists of 5 members across both pairs of games, with Hala being subbed out from Mullane. Let's be real, did you even finish Ultra Sun to know that fact? But unfortunately, if you watch my gym leaders video, then I kinda gave this one away already because it's 100% Olivia. And that's saying something because Hala has 3 Pokemon with only 2 moves. 3 Pokemon with 2 moves! And he's an Elite Four member! But like, at least all of Hala's Pokemon stat-wise are pretty good and can do a lot of damage. Olivia, it doesn't matter if you're playing the originals or the Ultra games, her team is pee-pee poo-poo garbage. In Sun and Moon, she suffers from the same problem as Bertha and Sinnoh, where she has 4 Pokemon, Relicanth, Carbink, Alolan Golem, and Probopass, who all have double weaknesses to common types. Also, you heard me right, Carbink, that is an actual Pokemon on an Elite Four member's team. She does drop Relicanth, Carbink, and Golem for Armaldo, Cradily, and Gigalith in the Ultra games though, which is a decent upgrade, especially with Gigalith Sandstream providing a 30% special defense boost to all the remaining rock types in her team. But again, very easy to ignore if you just have a Pokemon with Earthquake. And most importantly, she probably has the worst Z-move user in this entire league, that being Lycanroc Midnight form. And by that I mean, it's probably not getting the chance to use its Z-move in most situations, since it has that same terrible combo of being relatively slow with low defenses. Mullane's Dugtrio is fast, Holo's Crabominable can maybe take one hit, Acerola's Palossand is very difficult to one-hit KO, and while Kahili's Toucannon on paper looks worse than Lycanroc, she actually maxes out its speed stat, so it's actually faster than Lycanroc despite having lower base stats. But even if you want to argue that Kahili's Toucannon is worse than Olivia's Lycanroc, the rest of Kahili's team washes Olivia so hard, it's not even a contest. Moving into the Galar region, where this region doesn't have a traditional Elite Four, but it does have a series of 4 consecutive battles that leads into the championship match against Leon, consisting of Bede, who literally just barges his way in, Nessa, Bee or Alistair depending on the version, and then Raihan. Honestly, I feel like it was a huge missed opportunity to not have the middle 2 matches be completely randomized so you never know which leader you're fighting. That would have given this sequence a crazy amount of replay value, but oh well. Anyway, I also sort of talked about this one ahead of time, but holy crap, Raihan's rematch team is so bad. For some reason, every one of his first 4 Pokemon will try to change the weather, and his AI almost always prioritizes doing a weather change over an actual attack. See, at first you think he's cooking. He starts off with a Drought Torkoal who's able to fight without setting up weather manually, and he could have had an awesome Dragon/Sun team that counters Ice-type Pokemon, but then he sends out Goodra and sets up Rain, and then Turtonator and sets Sun back up, and then Flygon who sets up Sandstorm. And ultimately, none of these weather conditions benefit Duraludon in any way in the end. Raihan's AI just wastes every possible turn in this fight and makes it extremely easy. It's kinda wild how this guy is Galar's best gym leader, but also the worst quote-unquote Elite Four fight. Okay, so for Paldea, immediately I gotta grill my man Larry for running a Tropius. Like, I get it bro, you're tired of your 9 to 5, Gita's making you put in some overtime. But you can't roll up to the league with a Pokemon like this. But honestly, aside from that, Larry's team's not horrible. He at least has a lot of moves that deal with Rock and Ice-type Pokemon, especially with his Ace Flamigo. He doesn't really have anything for Electric. I kinda wish Gliscor was in the main Paldea decks for that, but it isn't, so nothing you can really do about it. But at least 3 of his Pokemon have neutral defense against electricity, so you can't tear through his team with it. Hassel is like an actual Dragon trainer with Dragon Pokemon that you would expect to see, so he gets passing grade. Poppy's team, not amazing, but it's serviceable, and plus Terra, Steel, Gigaton, Hammer, Tinkaton KOs almost anything, so that's a great Terramon. So like, I hate to say it, but it's definitely Rika. Now, the last time I called Rika bad in a video, people actually tried to cancel me on Twitter, so I feel the need to preface this by saying that I like Rika's design, her personality, and her Little League interview segment, but her team is terrible, and there's no way around it. And yes, that actually did happen. Rika Nation is kinda crazy. And you know what? I get it. But aside from Dugtrio, there's not a single Pokemon on this team with a speed stat over 60. She gets washed by basically any grass or water type in this region. Her Clodsire would be a decent counter, but the fact that it's her Terra Pokemon actually makes it worse because she loses that poison resistance to grass. And she doesn't even run any poison type attacking moves on that Clodsire. At least she has Water Absorb on Clodsire, that's like the one thing I can compliment her on. And I realized, yeah, she was stuck between a rock and a hard place. Her ace either had to be Clodsire or Toedscruel because those are the only ground types that aren't Paradoxes or Legendary in Paldea. But man, Paldea has so many other good ground types her team could have included, like Garchomp, Crocodile, Mudsdale, Gastrodon. They had options besides Camerupt, I'll say that much. Anyway, let's hope I avoid a cancellation with my well-thought-out analysis. That would be nice. But thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe for more videos just like this one, and I'll see you guys next time.